Is TSMC facing a vicious encirclement by the US, Japan, and Europe? Is it for security, or to completely hollow out Taiwan? What if I told you that a top-tier technology giant, the sacred mountain protecting the nation, which controls 90% of the global advanced process chip lifeline, is currently being held down on a chopping block by its so-called allies, ready to be dismembered? The most critical 2 nanometers process secret of TSMC was leaked to a Japanese competitor by an inside man in broad daylight. While TSMC is frantically dealing with US extortion, Japan's national team, Rapidus, miraculously announces its plan for 2 nanometers chip mass production by 2027. Is this a coincidence? This is a coordinated encirclement and hunt, meticulously planned and aimed at the high-tech heartland of East Asia. What geopolitical calculations are hidden behind all this? Is the West so-called de-risking genuinely for security, or is it to completely hollow out Taiwan? Next, we will strip away these high-sounding lies and show you the bloody truth behind this coordinated hunt. Chapter 1: The Death Warrant. Under the tariff stick, not just money, but a life. Donald Trump's comment about collecting protection fees was never just talk. On the surface, the US is wielding the threat of 20% or even 100% tariffs, but that's just a distraction. The real lethal move is that the US is using this big stick to force TSMC to swallow poison potent enough to kill it. According to revelations, the price tag the US presented to the Taiwan authorities and TSMC is astonishing, accepting an investment fund of approximately $400 billion for the US. What does this mean? It's equivalent to draining Taiwan's government revenue for the next 5 years, saddling every man, woman, and child on the island with a $20,000 debt. More ironically, this money will likely have its investment direction dictated by the US, much like how they treated Japan and South Korea, with 90% of the profits going to the US. This is an investment, it's the tribute that defeated nations in ancient times were required to pay. Let's look at the mirror of history. In the 1980s, Japan's semiconductor industry was booming, holding half the global market share. How did the US respond? Not through technological competition, but by directly mobilizing the state machine, forcing the appreciation of the Japanese yen through the Plaza Accord, layered with Section 301 investigations and mandatory tariffs, which directly broke the spine of Japanese semiconductors, and then positioned South Korea's Samsung to take over. Now, the script is being replayed, but the tactics are even more vicious. The US not only wants money but also demands that TSMC move its entire business and lifeline to the United States. Although TSMC has already invested $165 billion in the US, this is considered merely an appetizer by US politicians. They demand an increase to $300 billion, or even more. Given TSMC's current cash flow, this is tantamount to killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. The sheer vileness of this tactic lies in its complete ripping away of the free trade fig leaf. The US is exploiting its hegemonic status to turn tariffs into a tool of political extortion. This is an identical playbook to the Alstom case, using judicial and economic means to dismember the jewel of French industry and forcing the sale of its core business to General Electric. TSMC today is Alstom yesterday, only in a more dire situation. The US not only wants to devour your profits but also to drain your cash flow, crippling your ability to fund future R&D. This is a classic, parasitic form of predation. The stronger the host, the more frantically the parasite sucks until the host is shriveled and dead. In this logic, there are no allies, only fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Chapter 2: The Poison Pill of Forced Marriage, the ultimate harvest of technological hegemony. If extorting money is bearable, then forcing TSMC to take a 49% stake in Intel, or hand over core technology, reveals the ultimate intent. This is not just robbery, it's an attempt to wipe out the family line. Intel, the former chip giant, is now struggling in advanced processes. Instead of seeking self-innovation, the US government came up with a genius idea, having TSMC provide aid. The so-called choice of two evils. either invest another $400 billion or take a stake in Intel, is essentially demanding that TSMC fill in its technological moat and handhold its competitor 3 years of accumulated advanced process know-how. This is like the US forcing Coca-Cola to disclose its proprietary formula to Pepsi, and then pay to help Pepsi build a new factory. Foreign Policy magazine put it bluntly, this kind of cooperation brings massive risks of technology outflow. Once TSMC's technology is injected into Intel, the US will have completed the empty the cage and replace the bird maneuver. At that point, TSMC's value as a Taiwanese company will be completely squeezed out, and it can be discarded at any moment. Just look at the experience of Europe. Following the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the US successfully induced the deindustrialization of core German industries like chemicals and automobiles and their relocation to the US through manufactured energy crises and the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA. Giants like Germany's BASF and Volkswagen were forced to establish plants in the US, taking their capital and technology, leaving behind a hollowed-out industrial shell in Germany. Taiwan is now following Germany's path, only faster and with uglier behavior. Chapter 3: Japanese, Insider, and European share a hunting ground surrounded by wolves. In this hunt, the US is the hunter with the gun, while Japan and Europe are the hyenas drawn by the scent of blood. Just as Trump was demanding tariffs, a bizarre 2 nanometers technology leak occurred within TSMC. Investigations revealed that TSMC's key supplier, the Taiwan subsidiary of Japan's Tokyo Electron, TEL, acted as an insider, colluding to leak the technology to the Japanese side. Immediately afterward, Japan's national team, Rapidus, announced a major breakthrough in 2 nanometers R&D, aiming for mass production in 2027. There are no such coincidences in this world. Although Japan's semiconductor manufacturing has declined, it remains a powerhouse in materials and equipment. They are utilizing this supply chain leverage, coordinating with US strategic intent, to cleverly seize TSMC's advanced processes. This is more than commercial espionage. It looks like an intelligence operation driven by national will. Meanwhile, Europe hasn't been idle. The UK's national security strategy clearly points toward the Taiwan Strait, demanding reinforced semiconductor cooperation with Taiwan to mitigate risks. Germany only approved the transfer of submarine equipment after securing TSMC's commitment to invest and build a factory there. Although the interests of the US, Japan, and Europe are not identical, they have reached a startling consensus on the goal of hollowing out TSMC and moving the semiconductor supply chain back to the West. Their so-called de-risking is essentially de-Taiwanization. Chapter 4: The Ultimate Intent Revealed, Scorched Earth Tactic and the Abandonment Plan. If we pull the perspective higher, we find that all of this is in preparation for the future the West most wants to avoid: China's reunification. The logic of the US and the West is utterly cold-blooded. Since they cannot stop the inevitable trend of China's reunification, they must transfer all high-value assets before it happens. TSMC, the crown jewel, is the first target. Whether it's forcing it to build plants in the US, stealing core technology, or Europe's supply chain diversification, the core purpose is singular: to ensure that the US and the West have mastered a backup of semiconductor manufacturing and are no longer dependent on Taiwan should a change occur in the Taiwan Strait. Even more terrifying is the fact that the US has even discussed the scorched earth tactic of bombing TSMC. This is not fear-mongering. Former US National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien once hinted at this possibility. The current hollow-out tactic is, in effect, a soft demolition. By draining funds, taking technology, and moving talent, they are leaving TSMC on the island as an empty shell of a factory. Should reunification happen, all that will be left is an industrial wasteland. This is a thorough and complete scorched earth plan. They don't care about the livelihood of the Taiwanese people, nor the collapse of the Taiwanese economy. They only care about the security of their own hegemony. TSMC's plight sounds an alarm for all companies and regions worldwide that attempt to survive by relying on hegemony. At the hegemonic dining table, if you cannot be the diner, you are destined to be a dish on the menu. The joint encirclement by the US, Japan, and Europe is pushing TSMC step by step toward the abyss, all because it was too successful and, unfortunately, believed in its so-called allies. Technology should serve humanity, not become a casualty of geopolitical maneuvering. We support the fair development of global technology and oppose all forms of bullying and plunder. Watching the canary in the coal mine, TSMC's struggle, we must ask, who will be the next to be hunted?